And we are live. What's going on out there, YouTube? This is SEL0320 representing JVS. This is our part 2 of the mega spoiler discussion for Spider-Man Into the Spider-Verse. I've got a whole slew of other people that literally have seen the movie, have different thoughts and critiques about it, or some of them just really loved it in general. But we're going to go and dissect this today. And I'm going to introduce some of these people real quick for you guys. Here we go. Alright, I've got first up on deck. Got my man Najir, big old belt. What's going on, Najir?
What's up, Sam? How you doing today?
I'm good, man. Doing good. Thanks for joining the stream, man.
No doubt. Thanks for having me.
Absolutely. Who we got next up here on deck? Got my man Anthony. What's going on, Anthony?
Hey, not much. Thanks. Happy to be
you
here.
in your car?
Yeah. Look, this was supposed to start like an hour ago.
Look, I don't want to talk about it. But nah, Anthony, I appreciate you for being here, man. Congratulations on being a new father and new homeowner. So, shout out to you, man.
Thanks, man. You too.
Got one of the best critics out there in Lucas Moore. What's going on, Lucas? I know you're looking at the game, but what's going on, man?
Hey, I am multitasking at its best here. Everything is great, though. Perfect.
That's good. That's good. I'm glad you're doing good. I'm glad you're here, though, man. For real.
We got you stronger poison next time.
Got my man Sam Murphy. What's going on, Sam?
Hey, Sam. How are you?
Doing good, bro. Thanks for coming, man.
Thanks for having me.
Oh, anytime, all the time. And then we got, last but not least, the moderator on the side, the great Jarrell Alexander. What's going on, bro?
Hey, what's going? Man, it's cracking me up that Anthony's just chilling, eating licorice in his car. But I'm doing great. I'm doing great. That's cracking me up.
I found this really long licorice, and I've been obsessed with it. I don't know what to do with all this licorice.
You know
Why
what?
do you have a long licorice, though?
It's so many inappropriate jokes I have.
I'm about to say, what are we about to talk about today?
But anyway, so because Jarrell and Najir, we've already had the conversation already about Spider-Verse briefly and different discussions. I was gonna let you guys get an opportunity of kind of talking about what you thought about your expectations before you even saw Spider-Verse. Like, what was it that, either intrigued you or kind of like, like, man, this is going to be okay. What were your first impressions of Spider-Verse? Jarrell, you want to go first?
Oh, shit. You want me to go first? Okay. What were my first thoughts of Spider-Verse?
Yeah, when you looked at the first trailer, like, what was your first impressions and thoughts of it?
I'll be honest with you. My first thought was, well, I thought visually it was definitely like something was going on there, but it didn't really stick to me. Like the marketing never hit me for real. Even when the rave reviews were coming out, I was like very back and forth, because I don't really, at the current time, I don't watch animated films like that. Not like I used to. So for me, I was like, fingers crossed. I mean, there hasn't been a good Spider-Man film since 2007. So, yeah, I was kind of rocking back and forth. It didn't really hit me. It didn't really faze me at all, to be honest, which is hilarious given my reaction to the film. But
yeah, I can't wait to talk about that. And Najir, what was your first impression when you saw the first trailer? Like, was it something that excited you, hyped it up? Especially when we were in San Diego Comic-Con, we got first-rate seats to seeing it, but was it anything that intrigued you about the first trailer, or you were kind of like put off by it?
Yeah, I gotta say, Jarrell pretty consistent with his feelings towards it, because even at San Diego, it was kind of modest. Like, all the hype of everything else going on, there's not a lot of buzz going on for it. And when we saw the trailer, we saw trailer 1 and I believe trailer 2 that was unfinished at the time altogether. Yeah. So we got about 5 minutes worth of stuff ultimately. And it was cool. We was really up close to the screen, so for the effects that was done, it was unlike anything I had ever seen. It felt like, at least, and like Jerome said, with the lack of marketing, I was just like, look, this movie's really got to knock it out the park in order for it to catch some eyes. And, it felt a little lackluster because of the fact the other part of the trailer wasn't finished. So it was just like, we're in July and you guys are trying to push this out by Christmas and y'all saying y'all not even done with the animation. I didn't have a lot of confidence going into it. But, ultimately, once it was all said and done, I mean, it was definitely a turn for the better for Sony and the Spider-Man property.
Yeah, absolutely. And then I guess all around, what were you guys' first impressions?
Oh wait, can I say what I thought about the trailer?
Yeah, that's what I'm going to, Anthony. I'm the moderator. Come on, man. I know you're in the car.
I'm gonna shut up.
Wait,
I'm eating my liquor. I'm eating my liquor.
Take your licorice out your mouth because I'm about to ask you first.
That's the real king of R&B right there.
But no, Anthony, Sam, and Lucas, either one of you guys, like, what were your first impressions when you saw the first trailer? And, like, were you excited to see this, or you kind of like, this is going to be okay? What were your first impressions, Anthony? You can go first.
Oh, thank you.
Licorice, man.
The licorice. Anyway, the style really hit me. I was really worried that they were gonna, I don't know how to say this, but whitewash the character of Miles. Like, I didn't want them to tone it down or anything. I wanted to feel like it could be a certain demographic today, but the style hit me, and I was hoping that it got me the feeling of I know you said a lot, but a live action, or animated comic book. Like everything was vibrant. It was when you get those splash pages or those really cool shots when you read a Spider-Man comic. That's what I felt when I saw the trailer when he was falling off.
Yeah.
And it just really hit me like, oh, I hope this is good. This is going to be great. And I liked it. There wasn't a lot of marketing because to me that means there's probably a lot of hands that would have been on it if they really believed in it, I guess, that were off of it. So you could do more non-safe stuff. And I feel like this movie wasn't really safe in a lot of concepts that we haven't really seen before. So I was happy.
Yeah. What about you, Lucas?
I'm trying to remember now. Oh, yeah. I posted it. I'm so distracted right now. I posted it in our chat when the trailer debuted, and I said, "Oh, this will be the best Spider-Man movie released."
Wait,
yeah, just based off of that. When we posted it, we started talking about it. I said, "Oh, this will be the best Spider-Man movie released." Partially because, let's be realistic, the last 3 of them are not good movies, so it's not a high bar to reach, but I figured this would be the best one. At least it's mixing up the characters, giving you something different. I have faith in Lord and Miller. Whatever they do, I have faith in it because they know how to combine emotional elements with comedy, and that's what I figured Spider-Verse would be, and that's what Spider-Verse turned out to be. Along with the animation looking original and looking like something that I would want to see.
That's interesting. Sam, what about you?
So I actually went to see the movie without even seeing the trailer. I wasn't very familiar with the Miles Morales storyline, and I never got to see the trailer. So when I got to see the movie, it was really my first encounter with the subject matter, the character. I just knew it was a Spider-Man movie, and I was looking forward to it because Spider-Man's probably my favorite superhero. So for me, I was just excited to go and check it out.
That's interesting. So we can segue real quick then. So what was this movie's impression on you? Like, how did you feel coming out of this theater? Like, when you came out of the theater, what was the first word that you could think of? Like, all right, well, this is how I feel about this movie.
I think someone said the best word already. I think that would be vibrant. It was. I loved the use of neon. I thought the characters all had a lot of personality. There was a lot of depth to their characters. I really loved the focus on family. I think that I'm probably the part of the 1% of the whole world that liked Spider-Man 3 with Tobey Maguire. But definitely the last 2 were like, yeah, they're okay. Tom Holland one picked it up towards the end for me. But I really liked I thought this was very, very vibrant. I thought it was a good addition to Spider-Man's whole franchise. I loved it. It felt like getting back to the roots in some ways, and at the same time, it felt like it was making the way to do some new things as well. So I loved the movie.
No, that's good. Lucas, what about you, man? What would be a word that you can kind of describe coming out of this film? And what did you feel? What was your takeaway feeling out of this movie?
I can't really give a word because a word doesn't pop into my head, but a thought pops into my head when I walked out, and the thought was, "Wow, who did Sony hire from Pixar to make this movie?" Because I know the changeover that's happened there, a lot of them are gone. And while I was watching Spider-Verse, all that kept on popping in my head was, this reminds me of an early Pixar movie. And what I mean by early Pixar movie is that all the emotional weight and comedy and the risks that they were taking with their earlier movies that they don't now. And I was like, oh, this is great. Like, that they even went this far with this movie, because this could have been as cookie cutter as humanly possible, and people still would have went to go see it. And they decided not to do that. And just like Sam too said, I know absolutely nothing about Miles Morales. I don't read comic books, so I didn't even know who the hell he was. I'm just finding out that he is mixed race. Okay, the whole time I didn't even know that. So, like it was all dope, pretty cool. As I said before, it was the best superhero movie, and I try to say that loosely based off of the genre that I had seen ever. So, yeah. I'd say like early Pixar was the first thing that popped into my head when I finished watching Spider-Verse.
No, that's good. That's actually really good. Anthony, with your licorice, what would be a word you can kind of describe when you got out of seeing Into the Spider-Verse? And then what was your impressions of the film?
I remember, like, Spider-Man comics got me through a lot of rough times when I was a kid, and this movie brought a lot of that, why I love the Spider-Man character back. I love Peter Parker. Like, even though I knew it was an alternate dimension Peter Parker, seeing Peter, can we do spoilers? Can we talk about stuff?
Yeah, this is like all that? Spoilers. You can talk about anything you want to in this.
Okay. Yeah, when Peter Parker, the perfect Peter, died.
The perfect Peter.
The perfect Peter Parker that had a like really good life, right? That's what I'm calling the blonde hair Peter that died at the beginning. I mean, yeah. and then I was gonna feel when I saw Aunt May and she had to deal with that loss, like. But even Miles, you bring in that struggle. I think one of the reasons why a lot of people love and attach to the Spider-Man character is he struggles. He struggles. And there was a scene where Miles was like, you guys don't understand, my uncle died. And they were like, whoa. My uncle died. My best friend died. My aunt died. And like all those emotional beats hit me. And it reminded me why he's such a great character. Such a great character. So I don't know. Just loved it all.
No, that's great.
And it's the best comic book movie that I can think of off the top of my head. Yeah.
Yeah, we're definitely going to go into that. One of those questions of being like, what was the best animated feature this year? But before we get there, I wanted to ask this of Jarrell and Najir, because I've already asked them this question before, but what does Spider-Man mean to you guys? Like, in the impression of how this movie translated for your impression on what Spider-Man already meant to you. Najir, you want to go first? Like, what did Spider-Man mean to you before you came in, and then how did it translate coming out after watching this film? And then you can also talk about what you thought about the film as well.
Yeah, so my word was applaud for a lot of the reasons what Lucas said. Sony could have definitely did the bare minimum here. They had the perfect slot as far as releasing this movie. Not a lot of competition. Hell, when you think about the animated movies for the year, not much competition on that note. Obviously, they're being nominated for Best Animated Movie, so, they played all the chips there right. But nonetheless, I mean, the movie was good, and I was just really surprised of the product they was able to put out. But I think when you talk about Spider-Man, this is why I think that the Andrew Garfield Spider-Mans were my favorite set. it's because it is about what Spider-Man translate to you. How do you resonate with it? There's different annotations and stories of them. Obviously, the ages. We've seen 3 different age groups with Spider-Man thus far. So, what this movie did for me, and especially with the fact of Miles Morales' story, I've always liked the Spider-Man who kind of had it kind of given, but still was still very humanizing, where you seen challenges that kind of resonate to what you might have dealt with growing up. So instead of just the Peter Parker who's chasing after his girlfriend all the time, you actually see a more of a life factor with his parents being involved and the challenges that go through that. So coming out of this movie and seeing this being put into an animation but tell a good story, what it did for me is the fact that I think that there's still good faith that good Spider-Man stories can be told that the youth may not be able to read, but see on a big screen and actually, get the type of same stories we were getting out of comic books years ago.
Nah, that's actually a really good point. I actually have to bring that up later. Jarrell, what about you? What did you take away from your impression when you think about Spider-Man? What does Spider-Man mean to you? But then after you left this film, how did that translate moving forward? And also, you can give your thought on the film as well.
Sure. What does Spider-Man mean to me? I think before I was saying that he's just like hope. If it was just one word, he just kind of represents hope. But I guess for me, Spider-Man always personally felt it was always sort of irrelevant who was under the mask, at least in my opinion. Whether we're talking about gender or skin tone or sexuality, I always thought that was pretty irrelevant, really. I think anyone could be Spider-Man. Like, a good example would be Donald Glover. He once spoke about how, like, a long time ago, like, what if there was a black Spider-Man live action, or what if I was that Spider-Man? And he immediately got hit with, like, hate and racism and I don't know. I guess Spider-Man to me, it was kind of the way that Donald Glover sort of envisioned Spider-Man, where it's like why can't it just be a kid from Harlem? It's a black kid from Harlem. Spider-Man. And I think this film did a great job at translating the way that I always describe Spider-Man, where it's kind of irrelevant whether it's female or male or black or white or mixed or whatever. So yeah. Hopefully that answers your question. Anyway.
Nah, I think that was a perfect answer, actually. I guess, Lucas, this will be another segue. We're going to have to try to get through this as fast as we can. Lucas, in terms of the quality in animation, in terms of the quality of, like, the cast and the voice acting and even the story, I would like to get your impressions and thoughts on this film, because it's different dimensions to the film in and of itself. Like, the cast, it's a huge cast. Story, really interesting for this type of animation, but at the same time, the VFX and animation is something that I think is going to be either a nitpick or something that we're going to have to kind of discuss a little bit later on. But I was curious as your take on it, specifically, Lucas.
Well, on the animation front, I can start there. I think it was the second best animated film I've seen this year in the terms of its look, to the Wes Anderson film, the animated film that came out earlier this year. Right now, the name is escaping me, but that was the only other film.
Isle of Dogs.
There you go. That was the only film that I can even come close to comparing to Spider-Verse's animation. As far as its voice cast, I feel it was the best voice cast this year that I've seen. It's been bigger cast, whether you look at Incredibles 2, Early Man, Hotel Transylvania 3, but I feel like this was the first time where it all made sense. Every voice matched every character. Even the emotional beats of the characters were matched by their voices, which a person like me, that's something that I'm looking for when I go see animated films. Like, when you get to the emotional aspects of the film, does the voice match that emotion? Or do they overdo it? Because, again, I think this is a common thing that most of us thought, which is that they would overdo certain things, possibly. And the emotional beats of this could have been highly overdone by a voice cast that didn't know what they were doing. And this one did. I would give the credit to the director. Not going to get at the Chris and Miller, even though, I want to, but I'm not going to. Because the director had to be the one who told them, this is what I want out of you. This is what I need out of you. So as the voice cast, I think it is the best this year.
Yeah. No, that's actually really good. What about the story? Did you think that the story was cohesive? Or, I mean, one of the biggest reasons why I asked about the story for you is, like, you're really big on progression of story, characterization, and at the same time, they did something that I thought was really unique in the sense that they decided, we're going to create a whole entire universe and a whole entire world and make it with one movie, but then platform all the rest of these characters out to the point that's like, wow, I want to see any of these characters. I'd love to see a Spider-Man Noir movie now. I'd love to see a Spider-Man movie now. But, like, normally people do it the opposite way. Like, you make one movie, then another movie, but this was able to achieve something that I was like, I don't know how they did it. And so I was curious, well, any of you guys, Lucas or any of you guys, what did you think about the story and the way that they actually did it? Because I feel like it's an achievement in and of itself. Anybody can comment on that, but I was asking Lucas initially.
I thought the same thing when I saw the film. And I appreciated the point that we know that they're going to expand this to a greater universe. And the point that you were able to get everyone's origin out your way within 3 minutes is great.
Yeah.
It's a great way to segue into everything else you're doing, while at the whole time of building up multiple origins for multiple characters, it still didn't overtake that this was Miles' story and Miles' origin story. And that's one of the most impressive things I've seen done on film this year, because that's not an easy feat to pull. It's not an easy feat for some shows to pull off in 8, 13, or 11 episodes. So for a movie to pull it off in 2 hours is pretty damn good.
I was just going to say one thing I would correct you. One thing I'll correct you about on that too is the fact that, like, see, that recipe seems old school Sony, where they want to do a whole bunch in one movie and it drastically fails. I mean, we've seen them try to do this with the Sinister Six, and it just didn't work, and thus that movie is probably never going to happen. But it is definitely a surprise that they were able to get origin stories right out the way really quick within 3 minutes, as you said, and still leave fans interested for more instead of disgusted by so much happening at once and still feel like the movie all at the same time.
Yeah, exposition is really hard to do, like you're saying, and to have it in an entertaining way, like, all right, one more time, all right, one more time, all right, one more time. And to have these different styles of characters, there's no universe where I thought 10 years ago I would see a Spider-Man Noir or a Spider-Ham in a motion picture or anything like that. And to do it in a way where each of these characters, when I'm sitting in the theater and I'm looking at people react to these characters, I'm sure people had their own favorites in that character among that team, right? And then we got to tone down Nicolas Cage. I didn't even know that was Nicolas Cage till after the movie, right? But seeing him do, and we got to hit this whammer, right? I was like, I would watch a whole movie about this. And if they make these characters work here, we're going to see them in other things. There's going to be more we're going to see in these characters. And maybe, again, I don't know what the magic recipe was, but Sony failed at this so many times. It's amazing that this is the movie they got right. After all that trash you've been talking about, giving back to Marvel, and Marvel needs to do this, and Marvel needs to do that, I think Sony got their feelings hurt. We can put there.
I think the sense of, I think Thanos would be very proud of this movie, because there's just such a great sense of, there's balance in this film. It's almost unusual, because there's like 5 origin stories sort of happening like simultaneously, you know what I mean? So, maybe even a little bit more than that, if you add in like Kingpin and, what's her name? Dr. Octavius, right? So,
loved her design.
Yeah.
AKA Liv.
Yeah, I don't know. I was just struck by how effortlessly they were able to just balance things in a coherent, simplistic manner, I don't know. I just didn't see that coming. Like, it's amazing that the movie isn't just like this big mess, but it's easy to follow. And there's like layers to it, emotionally, which I thought was really, really impressive.
I just want Miles in a future movie or something to pull out that cartoon hammer with no explanation and hit somebody.
That was pretty cool.
I kind of want to jump off something Anthony already brought up, which is that like Spider-Man, the way that Spider-Man struggles and like that moment where they're all like, "Yeah, I get it, kid," that I thought it was brilliant the way that they used the theme of family to pull everyone's stories in to make a family of Spider people, and like it's been said, right? Like usually if you have a whole bunch of characters, especially like a lot of protagonists, it's really hard to keep track of everybody. It's like herding cats. But the way they were able to do it while also staying so much in line with, like, I guess like the soul of who Spider-Man is, was breathtaking. It's been a long time since it's that interesting. I have mixed feelings about Marvel movies because they feel a little bit too cookie cutter for me. So I was very happy to see somebody else make a superhero movie that had such a very compelling story.
Bless you.
Yeah.
Bless you.
I definitely want to say that Shameik Moore, this was the perfect part for this guy. He carries a certain swagger to himself, and considering what Miles Morales represents, I mean, it's well fitting. Then you just, even if you don't know Shameik Moore or what he does outside his acting career, if you look at the character Shameik Moore portrays in the movie Dope, it also genuinely translates into this story, which makes this like a ultimate like situation for him, which ultimately puts Zoe Kravitz in the perfect situation for this movie as well, where she was Mary Jane in this movie. So when you want to talk about a form of authenticity, look at the two people and what they did acting, and then put them as voice actors to portray the same role. It just fluently works. That's why this is just so un-Sony characteristic. Like it's crazy when you really go down and look at the voice cast and you start saying like, yo, that really does make sense why that person is playing that person. You know what I mean? Yep. But go ahead.
I would say, because I hear that a lot, it's old un-Sony characteristic, if that makes sense. I've been trying to explain to people for like the last 2 years that when Sony made the transition from the people who were running it to the people that run it now, a movie like Spider-Verse makes perfectly good sense. When I look at the guy that ran Fox for 15 years, is the person who runs Sony and ran Fox before Fox became, Disney Food Fox. And this type of film and this type of cast, this type of control given to producers falls under the realm of what this guy does as a chairman. So it didn't surprise me at all of the way everything came together for the film. It more surprised me that they were willing to be as risky as they were with this. That surprised me more than anything.
The one last thing I was going to say, the one last thing I'll add to this question too, and I know Jarrell can probably speak on this as well. Sony was very adamant at the Venom panel at San Diego Comic-Con, when obviously the first person that got a chance to ask a question from the crowd asked, will we see Spider-Man and Venom? And everybody up there, as far as the producers and writers for Venom and representatives from Sony, they basically threw their hands up and said, look, we're willing to work with whoever. Like, if we can get Spider-Man in it, we'll do it. And I think with that type of, with them being so open-minded to it, I think they more than likely translated that type of mentality into this movie, where they left so many open possibilities for future projects that's why we're seeing what would happen. Because they know, like, look, at this point now, we're kind of all in. So, like, our plan hasn't worked for this long. We might as well just try to wreak help. Not to mention, the whole buying thing, obviously played a part into it. But, like, we might as well start making our movies in that direction as well, too. And let's not try to execute a 10-year plan. Let's do agile development, where we just do one movie and reevaluate that, then the next movie, reevaluate that, and then the next. Instead of saying, we're going to do this for 10 years. So, we'll see.
There was another thing they didn't do cheaply, which is a lot of companies, they do this when they introduce a new character, or a lot of creative teams. They'll try to lessen the older character or the more established character to hype the newer character up. This one I didn't feel that way. I didn't feel they were disrespecting Peter Parker at all, the character of Peter Parker. Like, if y'all watch Supergirl, like, they punk out Superman every single time he shows up, right? Like, it's almost a joke at this point. It's painful at this point because they feel they need to tear him down, at least from my perspective. Feel like they need to tear him down to build her up. In this one, you brought a new character that was an alternate version of Spider-Man that wasn't Peter Parker, but I felt they gave him his own growth without trying to have him supplant Peter Parker or say he's a better version of Peter Parker or anything like that. You know what I mean? And you even get that in comic books. The new character shows up, has to beat up an established character to show how cool they are. And they didn't have to do that. They just made a character that you related to, felt for. That anxiety scene when he's walking down the hallway, that was great. That was great. I'm going to use that in sessions when I show it to kids. Like, maybe something you feel like. Like, I think that was a very great touch that everybody wouldn't have put it there.
Yeah, and I think this is an interesting segue. Special moments, significant moments that, really touched you and kind of meant a lot in terms of the film. I have one that I'll talk about last, but Anthony, do you have a specific moment that kind of was like, it captivated you, or it was like, man, like this got me emotional? Whatever your reaction was, it was significant to you specifically. And we'll go across the list for everybody.
I already talked about that happened to me with the death things. They all went through their own tragedy and loss, and the sense of responsibility that the Spider-Man character has compared to everybody else. I can say what made me mad, that was a really great touch for the villain, was Kingpin throwing a benefit for the deceased Spider-Man when he's the one that killed him. Was a great Kingpin moment that got me upset when I was sitting here watching that. And during that moment when I guess that Peter Parker's like in his 40s or something like that, right?
Yeah. You talking about the older one?
He was in his 20s, I think, like late 20s.
Mary Jane, the older one, yeah. And he saw Mary Jane, and he's terribly. Anyway, so that was really touching to me because, again, if you've been following Spider-Man character, like that's the connection, him and Mary Jane, and to see that Peter have that much loss and almost really want to die. It was a really dark character arc for the older Peter, who was kind of like, I got nothing left to live for. I can stay. I can do it. No, I'm just going to stay because I have nothing left to go for. That was a really dark place to see Peter struggle with like giving up, and I don't know, that whole scene was a lot for me.
Yeah. Anybody want to pick a specific moment that was significant for them?
Like emotional moments?
It could be emotional, it could be like a great moment, it could be a great visual moment. I mean, I know mine's is encompassing of all of the different ones, but yeah.
There's definitely there's
I'd like to hop in.
Or you can go first if you want to. That's fine.
Oh, thank you. When Miles finally has mastered his powers and he finally takes that leap of faith and he jumps. I mean, I know it's like it's intended to be kind of the climax moment of the movie, but for me, it really ties into what I've always loved about Spider-Man, which is that Spider-Man's free. You see heroes that can run really fast, or they can fly, they can do they have these cool ways of moving, but Spider-Man is able to. He can move one way and then shoot out web and yank himself in a completely different direction. Just completely changes his trajectory. He just has a level of mastery over his own body, over his movement that really no one else that I can think of off the top of my head really has. And so seeing that moment for me was just really touching, because I remember when I was a kid, like I had a lot of breathing issues. I was always very, very skinny. And so getting to see Spider-Man, who was a hero that was very, very small, very scrawny, but just had so much control over how he could move. To me, that was always there was a connection there with the character that I don't think I really have with any other superhero. And so seeing Miles, who really he can't even walk and chew gum at the same time, get to that point where he's just willing to jump and free fall and be like, it's now or never. That really that moment for me was, I think I actually may have teared up a little bit in the middle of the theater. So I think I actually might have. But it was
no shame in that. No shame in that at all.
Yeah, it was It got to me, man. May have been, I probably snuck an onion into the theater and was cutting it. That's probably what happened.
Yeah, I think a couple moments. I mean, there's so many moments, but if I guess I have to narrow it down, a couple things like number one, oh shit, the scene where his powers are starting to kick in, but he has no sense of like what that means, you know. And when he's I forgot where he was, but he was in some building, and there's about to be an explosion, but his spidey sense kicks on for like the first time. And like behind him, not only is it in font, it's spelled out, but literally like the voice of the power of the spidey sense was literally just like, look out. And then it was just like, and I just thought that was so intense because I've never seen, I mean, you can say this throughout the film, but I've never seen the spidey sense. I've never seen so much emphasis on it or seen it used so vividly before, you know? I was like, whoa, it almost had like a supernatural element to it, you know? It's kind of like, where is this spidey sense coming from, you know? So that was a big emotional moment for me because it's just a pure nerdgasm, you know? That and, God, what was it? Oh, this was maybe my biggest emotional moment in the film. Like, because we're seeing like the particle collider, right? And Spider-Man and Miles meet for the first time. And there's a moment where Miles is like, well, I don't know if I can do this. I don't even know if I want to do this. And Spider-Man goes, well, unfortunately, I don't think you have a choice. And while that's a very dismissible moment, I thought that was really, really emotionally powerful. Because really great responsibility is it gets distilled down like that. Like, you have to do it. Like, if you have Superman power, nigga, you have to save the day. Okay, it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter what you want to do. Like, you are bigger than the rest of us, you know? You stand for something much more. So, those two moments really, really got me, you know?
Go ahead. I gotta go next because my point completely counters his point. It's exactly the exact other time when Miles and Peter talk right after the Collider and all the other Spider-Mans return to the universe. And I told Sam this like right away. This was my biggest point, was when Peter was just like, look, I got this, you know, this is my responsibility. And then Miles told him, he said, no, you got to go home. And he was just like, what you mean? He's like, no, you have to go home. Now, as like you said, this could have been a dismissive moment as well too. And the emphasis that really caught my ears to this is because he could have just said, you have to go. But he says, no, you have to go home. And what I instantly got from this is he was just like, you know, you got to go home. You got to take. He said, what about if I mess up again? And then he says, you just have to take a leap of faith. And what that meant to me is that was outside of this movie. That was literally a moment Sony was looking themselves in the mirror and saying that if we're going to have Spider-Man home, if Spider-Man's going to return back home, if we're going to handle this property right, we literally do have to take leaps of faith in order to maintain this property. So when I instantly heard that, I was just like, wow, I mean, that's like beyond this animated kid movie. Like, this is literally Sony having a moment with themselves saying, like, this is our defining moment if we're going to make a run in the future with this property. So, like, when I heard that, outside of, you know, what was happening in the movie in that scene, I just thought that was really big for Sony to do something like that.
All right, I got all y'all points were awesome. I'm gonna say that first, especially that last point. That last point is perfect because that's actually the first thing I said when I saw this film, and that line came up. I said, "Oh, you got to go home." I said, "Oh, that was Sony talking about themselves." That was clearly obvious to me. Okay, but to the best moments, let's go to the 3 parts that made me cry. So, part number one that made me cry is when right after Peter Parker is killed and Miles goes home, and he just runs up to his dad and hugs him and asks him, "Do you really hate Spider-Man?" I started crying. Right there, I started crying. And I was like, God damn it. Like, such a punk. So, the second time I cried, I believe, now, Now I'm going to get my thoughts jumbled a little bit because I can remember the third time I cried, and I'm trying to remember the second time I cried. All right, the second time I believe was when him and his dad again were talking in the hallway right after his uncle died, and he couldn't say anything, so he was tied up and couldn't display any emotions at all, as his dad is really going through it on the outside of the door, and it just represent that separation between them two that was unnecessary. Because the whole time I'm thinking the dad could easily just kick in the door, go into the door. It's no need for him to. Yeah, it's like
that moment.
Exactly, and that just again made me cry. And then when he transformed, and finally like got his powers and got his suit, and then he jumped off the building. Even though I've seen it in the trailer, in that movie with that the meaning and everything behind it, I cried again. I felt like an old black woman, like the old black woman. She's like, "Ooh, baby, go get him, baby, go get him, baby." Like that all those bullshit, all the fun, and I cried there again. So I would say those are my three most pivotal moments because those are the three moments that made me cry in this movie.
Oh man,
head up, soldier.
It was an emotional day. Okay, I think I saw Moonlight that morning, and then
you ain't got to justify. You ain't got to justify.
I set myself up for failure.
I was all in a crying mood.
Oh man. Did everybody go and give their significant moment?
What about Stan Lee?
Wait, is that you, Anthony?
Yo.
What did everybody feel about, like, Stan Lee, well, the two Stan Lee cameos that he was in the movie? Like,
I think it was
the main one where he's saying, like, it always fits or whatever. Duh.
Yeah.
The music, the way that he just, the reveal is, I've seen it like twice or three times now. The reveal is always perfect, you know, because it's very abrupt. And you're just like, oh, it's Stan Lee, oh shit, you know? That moment's amazing.
and the perfect Stan Lee humor of no refunds when they pan out a little bit and you see like the no refunds for the costumes. I thought that was a great.
Yeah. I think I don't know if this is a hot take or not, but I think that might be the best Stan Lee cameo that I've ever personally seen in the Marvel movies.
It's like the fourth person I've known to say that.
Like, there was something about it that felt, like, timeless. You know what I mean? Like, it's kind of like in the way that, like, you can watch The Dark Knight. And even if you've seen The Dark Knight 100 times, the humor is so clever, it always, like, makes you chuckle type of thing. It's timeless in that way, where I can't foresee me ever being like, oh, here comes that scene again. You know what I mean? Like, it's always timeless.
It definitely came with more thought.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah.
So I don't even know if you call it a cameo, more or less a scene now.
Yeah. I definitely think that it was one of the most influential and pivotal cameos that he had ever done because it progressed Miles' story as much as was just like nostalgia, feels all behind it because he's no longer here, but he's left his mark, you know, literally on entertainment industry, but also for Miles moving forward into the film. And I thought it was one of the most significant cameos he had ever done. I love that. What's that calling me?
Second animated cameo of the year, too. Second animated cameo of the year. Because I still love his cameo in Teen Titans Go.
Yeah,
that is one of the funniest things I've ever seen.
Oh, yeah.
And it was really unexpected, too. So I was like...
Exactly, and those are the best two cameos that Stan Lee's ever had in a film. Is in these two animated films.
So, quick question. I guess this is a detractant, kind of. But what did you guys think about the music? There was one specific scene that you guys kind of described when Peter Parker died, and Miles went back to his house. His dad was like, "What in the world? What's going on?" And Miles was like, "Can I just stay here for the day?" And then they looked on the TV, and the song, I think, "Scared," came up. Or "I'm Not Afraid," I believe that's what it was. But regardless of the fact, the soundtrack, for me, was one of the best soundtracks of the year. But at the same exact time, the score was just as good as well. And I was just curious what you guys thought about the soundtrack and the score and how it worked symbiotically to this film. I was just really curious what you guys' thoughts were on it.
I have some very, very quick thoughts. I mean, there's like a certain like musical cue that has like an ominous tone to it. I don't know what that track is called, but that's pretty cool. I think the biggest song for me though, which might be an obvious one, but it's the song that introduces us to Miles, literally. It's also literally the last song that plays like in the film, which is Sunflower by Post Malone and Swally. Yeah, that song is amazing. Okay, that song is incredible. Yeah, that's my little tidbits on that.
I thought it was really good. I thought the soundtrack was really great. And sometimes when they try to add like hip hop to movies, it doesn't fit right. Like they don't really know. Like if you watch Defenders and they just add Wu-Tang anywhere, it doesn't really fit. But one thing I really liked was the stuff that was the little cues. Like the Prowler's soundtrack really added to the menace. I mean, I always thought the Prowler was a joke character, but they really added to the menace of him chasing them down and hunting them, you know, when he was hunting them through the sewers and everything like that. And even when we showed up later on in the apartment, like those kind of cues in the movie worked really well.
Oh, there's one other thing I wanted to say really quick. There's a scene. Okay, so when I was watching the film, because again, when I went to see the film, I was just kind of like, I hope it's great, you know? And literally by the time we got to see Peter Parker for the first time being like, okay, so here's my origin story type of thing. When we're seeing his origin story for the first time, I'll never forget, I was just like, sitting there head bobbing to the music, and I was like, am I head bobbing to a Spider-Man origin story? So yeah, the music is definitely great, for sure. Like, the whole time.
I like the soundtrack. I don't know if I'll put it as best as the year, and for sure in my short-term memory, it's not the best score. I actually like Creed's score better because a lot of what I thought was going to be on Creed's soundtrack was actually on Creed's score. So all those Tessa Thompson songs are actually considered on the score, which is a cheat, but technically it is the score. So I'm definitely going to tilt it that way. But ultimately, I thought it was still good. As far as like a superhero score, Marvel does not do good scores, period. Down the line, I don't think there's one Marvel score of any movie that I've liked, and most of the movies don't have soundtracks besides like Guardians of the Galaxy. So putting that into perspective, you know, it depends on what floats your boat. But you know, for the soundtrack, it was good. Just I think it's situational. You know what I mean? Depending on what you're doing for the day is how you want to dictate that that soundtrack, because it got its highs and its lows. Because like some songs you can listen to going into work, some songs are you're going to listen to going into happy hour, but you can't mix the two of those. You know what I mean?
To me, it's not the best score of the year. I'll give it the best animated score, or possibly the best score out of this genre of film. But unfortunately, I can name at least 10 films that scores are better. But for a soundtrack, I think I finally listened to it because Sam kept on telling me how great it was. And besides possibly African American Panther, this is probably the best soundtrack I ever heard this year.
Oh God, I forgot that came out this year too. Yeah,
absolutely. Yeah, like that was, but this was probably the second best soundtrack. It was the first time that I tried the Creed 2 soundtrack. Again, same thing. I couldn't get into it all the way unless I'm like in the gym constantly. Then I would feel that soundtrack a little more. But just casual listening, work listening, happy hour listening, I think Spider-Man's soundtrack is the second best I heard this year.
It's kind of crazy. We got Black Panther to begin this year, and then multicultural Spider-Man at the end of the year. This is kind of a significant year if you think about it. Like,
hey,
this is great.
Black Lightning's in between there. You got to count Black Lightning because he's in between there. The first network superhero.
No,
Black
guy was the villain. Don't count it.
We can't count Black Lightning if they don't count Black Lightning. They didn't even use him in their biggest crossover, so we can't count him. They're not.
No. But they doing that purposely though. That's on purpose that they're doing that. He needs to be separate. He Black. You can't be the separate. Separate but equal, man. Separate but equal. That's all that matters.
Yeah. So I still cannot confirm. And to keep things kind of positive still, I think this movie is going to translate beautifully on the small screen. I look very adamantly for this to be released on Blu-ray. Hopefully they give a 4K version of it. But the theater I seen it in, and I was quickly reminded by a coworker of mine that when I first came out of Spider-Verse, I believe like the first 20 minutes there was a blur on the right side of the screen, and immediately that same day, I believe it was the first person I wrote the negative review on Rotten Tomatoes, and he talked about the blur before he went completely haywire with his review. So like the credibility was kind of there for me for a second, and then it just got lost because I was like, yeah, I remember the blur. Then he just went way off the rails with his nitpicking of the movie. But my coworker reminded me too that at the same time I went to see Grinch, and I seen Grinch in that same theater, and I also had that same blur problem. And then I just went to see Welcome to Marwin the other day, and it also had the same blur for a little bit. So I'm thinking now that this issue that
that theater.
Yeah.
No. I think I know what you're talking about because I thought that I forgot my 3D glasses. I thought I went to the 3D showing or something.
Yeah.
I was shot up, and I was like, "Oh wait, is this how it's supposed to be?" And I thought it was going to bother me, but after a while, I forgot until you just said it just now.
Yeah, that's exactly what my feel was because I was just like, "Wait, is this supposed to be 3D?" Of course, that's always a bonus when you go to a screening, but like, it eventually, it went away. So again, I don't know, was it just something I experienced within the theater? Obviously, I'm talking about the Silver Spring, Maryland theater, local to us, and so like a lot of other people said they wasn't seeing it. So this is clearly a nitpick because it could just be situational to that theater. But that was just my only one big problem was that I just had blur. I had like focal blur for about 20 to 30 minutes of the movie.
It was the theater. Only reason I'm saying it's the theater is because I've seen it twice. I saw it at Beltsville Theater, and I saw the blur. I saw it at a more recently made theater, and nothing was there. So that told me it was the screen quality. Now, this may be a film that is made to be shown on certain screens, and they're just going to show it on all screens, and that's why we get the blur at times when you watch it. And because the blur is irritating, and I do know exactly what you mean when you say it looks like it should, like I forgot my 3D glasses. Because when I first saw the film, that's what I went through. The second time I saw it, I didn't see any of that. So then that told me, okay, it's the theater, it's the technology at that theater that's not as upgraded as other theaters are. And if you're a studio, you can downplay it or downgrade your film, but so much so everyone can see it, or you could just say, hey, you're just going to have to sit through it if it's a problem.
Maybe you're right about the it could just be the type of how it was filmed or whatever, because I saw it in Laurel and I saw the blur. So, I don't know. But it bothered me after a little while. Like, I think I don't know, maybe everything was so much, everything else was going on the screen, maybe that just, my eyes just got used to it. I don't know.
Yeah.
Yeah, in terms of nitpick, I mean, I don't know, it's weird because I don't have any substantial flaws with the movie, obviously. And even nitpicks, I really don't. I mean, the only nitpicks I can really think of off the top of my head, and I'm really scraping the bottom of the barrel here. The spider, spider ham? Spider pig? I feel like if each character had their own spotlight, I felt like his was a bit small. I never had a moment with Spider Pig where I was like, so I wish he kind of had maybe, like in Infinity War, when Thanos throws a moon, it's just like, what the fuck? I just wish a Spider Pig or Spider Ham, I wish he had a moment like that, even if it was just comedically equivalent to that would have been nice. Because not that I had anything against his character, I just wish he had more of a moment. And I guess outside of that, I don't know if this counts, but when I first saw the movie, I was a little bit weirded out by the frame rate. It was very bizarre. I was like, what the hell's going on? Is this at 24 frames per second? But then, the more I thought about it, and this is purely my own interpretation, I haven't looked into this, but the reason why the frame rate works for me now is that the movie looks like a drawn comic book, right? So maybe they're sort of speaking to like flip animation. For those of you who are unaware, basically it's a flip book or a flip book. It's a book with a series of pictures that vary gradually from one page to the next. That when you're flipping through it, when the pages are being flipped rapidly, the pictures look like they're animated, you know what I mean? Mm-hmm. So I wonder if they're actually speaking to that, you know? That would be really, really fucking cool. If, like, the movie is meant to be, like, a comic book, and the only reason it's, the pages are turning is because we're watching it. So, like, this effect right here is what they're trying to replicate with the frame rate, essentially. But yeah. Yeah, that's the only real nitpicks that I found. The frame rate and Spider-Ham wasn't as great as I would have liked it to be. But
who would you switch him out from? Like, if you switched Spider-Ham out with somebody else, who would it be from out of this?
I don't think I would remove him. I just wish he... I thought he was funny, but I just wish I had a moment with him that was just like, and I didn't. So... like with Gwen, you know, like every moment with Miles I thought was golden, you know, Nicolas Cage as Spider-Noir sort of speaks for itself. And then Penny Parker was probably my favorite, Spider-Man, because I was like, wait, is she like an anime character? What the hell's happening? But, yeah, Spider-Ham didn't completely do it for me, but not enough for me to throw on a flaw, you know?
I'll say that I'm glad that you feel that way, because I kind of mimic that, because when you think about characters like that, you're afraid that they're in there for marketing reasons and, you know, merch and all that other good stuff. So you think it's just going to be an abundance of this, too much of it. Like, instantly when I knew that Spider-Pig was going to be in the movie, I was just like, oh, this is Groot all the way. This person's going to have no role, but going to have endless toys, endless everything. And they're just going to have them just in there for the comedic factor that just is just irrelevant. But the fact that they did have him as a comedic person, obviously, but still having the seat back, still was great, because like even that could have overshadowed the fact that we are here for Miles Morales.
Yeah, it's kind of like the Drax problem, like in Infinity War, or maybe in general you can make an argument for. Like Drax, it's like he's great, but at the same time it's like, fuck, I wish he wasn't just like a crutch for jokes, you know what I mean? Yeah. Like I wish he was a little bit more important. So this is kind of a similar problem.
Yeah, Sam, did you have any nitpicks or any critiques about the film?
Yeah, if I was to nitpick anything, it would be that I would have it would have been related to Fisk, because I think of him as being he's an all around fantastic villain. I felt like he was a little bit too flat. And basically like, oh, I'm bigger, and then he didn't feel as I think as fleshed out as he could be. I think that would probably be my only nitpick. But I think that it probably would be pretty hard to do more with them, because the main focus was Miles and the other Spider-Men, or Spider People, I guess. So. Yeah, it would be. It's a nitpick that I think is just kind of a victim of circumstance. But that would be my only real nitpick.
Yeah, no, that's good. While my son is semi-asleep, I'll try to talk on what Niger had brought up about the VFX. When we went to that screen, I did see the video as well. In addition to that, I was kind of like worried, like my second viewing, like it'd be like, man, what is going on? But I realized something when I was watching the very first time, is that the character that you're focused on when you're actually watching, like the Spider-Man or this Spider-Gwen, they are almost photorealistic and they look perfect. But the outside is kind of like a motion blur. Like it's almost like you can see 3D when something is actually happening, or there's an action actually happening. And I think that was an intentional thing. I think that a big part of how they actually designed this was to show, like you said, Jarrell, like a flipping of the page of a comic book. Like as soon as you flip the page of a comic book, you're like, oh, I want to see this action moment. And when an action moment happens, it just kind of just goes at you vibrantly. One of the things I did want to do, I wanted to see this in IMAX, to see how amazing it would look with IMAX 3D. Did any of you guys get to see this 3D at all?
No 3D
Yes.
for me. I don't watch anything 3D.
Yeah, I saw it in 3D. Yeah.
How was the 3D compared to the regular translation, bro?
I thought the 3D was fine. I thought it was great. Though, weirdly, I think when you watch it in 2D, it almost looks 3D then, if that makes sense.
Yeah, that's what I'm speaking to.
Yeah, 3D was great, though. I didn't have any... I thought it was great.
Okay. So this will be an interesting segue then. One of the last questions that I kind of put up was speculations on spin-offs, future films, and then just really your theories and thoughts of what they're going to do with the Spider-Verse moving forward. Because this is Sony, but they have definitely made great strides moving forward. Mm-hmm. They've already confirmed that Spider-Gwen, I think, is next. Her and Miles are going to be having a partner show together. Spider-Gwen is also having her own series with other Spider-Women. But I'm just curious what you guys thinking that this is going to go to, or if you had like a pitch of something you would want to happen with these characters. I was just curious.
Oh, look, Sony. Listen, Sony, if you're watching, look. I've never heard of what's her name, Penny Parker, right? I ain't never heard of her, but God damn it, I will direct a live action film.
There's money to be made there. There's money to be made there.
Dog, that is the hardest character in there besides Miles. I was just because I love anime. And I especially love that even when we see like elements like her robot and her or like her world, they look drawn like an anime, only in that context, you know? So I loved her character. I would love to see like a live action, or even just her own like Spideyverse animated style movie would be the sickest shit. Because isn't she from like 3145 or some wild shit? But I would love to see more of her. I was just tickled by her.
You should look up her comic book appearance. Her neck pretty much looked like an Evangelion. They couldn't do that in this movie though.
I will say that, and this ties into last question, and this question is one big old answer. My positive is, again, what everybody's been saying is how they really kept this as a Miles Morales movie. In New York Comic Con, there wasn't a big Marvel presence, but for the presence that was there, was all about Marvel Rising. And Marvel Rising, if anybody's not familiar, is the big series that is on Disney XD, in which they're breaking off into different movies like the Secret Warriors and stuff like that. And with that comes a whole plethora of female characters. Obviously, Captain Marvel is going to be one. Squirrel Girl is going to be very popular. And Spider-Gwen, who's actually like the captain of the team, the main focal point. Immediately, I thought that with so much emphasis on Spider-Gwen already, Spider-Gwen this, Spider-Gwen that, I'm like, oh, she's definitely going to be the focal point of this movie. And so and again, you know, hats off to Sony for still keeping it as a Miles Morales story. But they did so much into investing you into who I think is going to be the future of the Spider-Man franchise, and Spider-Gwen being a female character, that you're now more intrigued for that. As Sam said, they're going to have her. She's next up, and it makes sense. So I think that when you consider what they've done with that and what they plan on doing in the future, I think that literally like they got that part figured out, and they know now that, you know, with a big stride into society for equality for women, and, you know, the rise of female superhero characters with the successful Wonder Woman and stuff like that, this is right in the right direction. So I really do expect big things coming from the Spider-Gwen character. And then my other thing I would just say about this movie is that with so much action, so much color and effects and everything that's going on, anybody who hasn't seen it, my key suggestion, I'm pretty sure everyone y'all can mimic on this, is that when there is no action going on and there's just dialogue, you need to pay attention, because a lot of good stuff is being said and being explained, especially the introduction of the characters part, where people are saying where they're coming from, and then they detail their universe. Those universes that they're talking about aren't universes that just came out of nowhere. They're literally like adaptations of movies and other stories that we've seen on the screen, either they twisted it a little, or it's exactly what it was, or just flipped. Like, for instance, when Spider-Gwen came out, she said, yeah, I'm Spider-Gwen, I'm from this universe, I saved my dad from almost being killed, but I was not able to save my best friend, Peter Parker, from dying.
Yeah.
That's exactly what happened in Amazing Spider-Man 1? Or, 1. No, 2, I'm sorry. Where it was the reverse, where Gwen Stacy died and Peter Parker was unable to save him and her dad, and then he wasn't able to save her dad. So, like, there's a lot of good stuff like that that's going on. I think that, when you think about them addressing their flaws in the past and the things they're doing in the future, there's endless possibilities here.
Yeah, no, I completely agree. Anybody else thoughts on future spinoffs and what they're gonna do next?
Well,
I'm glad they just. Go ahead, Lucas.
Oh, okay. But I would say thoughts on future spinoffs. I understood after seeing it why Spider-Gwen was the next character, because she seemed to actually be the most formed character of all the other Spider-Men in the film. So I understood that. Plus, again, with the movements and everything going on, a female character that little girls can latch onto makes perfectly good sense, even though Sony clearly is not pushing any merchandising because they don't make money off of that. But from a film standpoint, it makes sense why they would do hers next. Again, going back to the management currently now at Sony, I can see not only the Spider-Gwen being branched off to a big screen film, I can see the other Spider characters, while maybe not getting big screen movies, they may get small screen films. They may drop on certain streaming services and things of that nature just to keep the universe going, because they made the Spider-Verse, and I believe they're going to end up taking a loss on this movie because of the amount they spent on it, which isn't surprising. And for Sony, looking at the bigger picture of it, I don't think they mind even taking the loss on this film to expand everything else they want to do. So I'm excited to see exactly where it goes from here, especially that part that we mentioned earlier about you have to go home to Spider-Man. I think that plays a lot bigger into their other Spider-Man universe that they're going to do. Yeah. So I'm interested to see how all of that works out with them.
I'm really glad that they started calling Spider-Gwen Spider-Woman. I've seen different types of how they use their name. I thought one universe is called the Spider, and you can't go around calling yourself Spider-Gwen. So I'm glad they did that and didn't do Spider-Girl, because I'm hoping that we get a universe, whether it's the Peter Parker that was older or something else. I want to see May Parker. If y'all remember, I don't know if y'all know the MC2 or Marvel Comics 2, where it was Spider-Man's daughter that was growing up, and she was named after Aunt May and everything like that. I always liked that character. I thought it was and with them opening up all these possibilities and these universes, I think it'd be cool to see her come into it, especially if we're going to do one with, we understand there's going to be all Spider-Women type of team with Gwen at some point. So I'd love to see that. I do want to see more Spider-Man Noir. I just don't know if I would see a whole movie with it be comical, or whether it be darker or what. But yeah, or just how does Cosmic Cube come here and all the multicolors on the Rubik Cube? I don't know. I loved everything. I loved everything about that. So yeah, and I think we're gonna see them all. I think you made a lot of fans to these different characters, and I can't wait to see the whole animated the anime Marvel universe. You know what I mean? Where all their different iterations in anime style. I think that'll be awesome. And we can check in on Spider-Ham, because I loved when they said he got bit by a radioactive pig. Anyway, that's all.
Is it not possible? Is it not? Oh, sorry. You go ahead.
I think as far as to do something with Spider-Ham would be pretty cool, but I think that it would be really, really interesting if they were to pair him with the Spider-Noir Spider-Man. So I think that the two of them together, that could be very, very interesting. Yeah, exactly. A lot. I think there's a lot that could be done there. I don't know exactly what you would do, but I think that just because the way those two characters are, they kind of serve as really interesting foils to one another, even without even really trying that hard. So yeah, that would be. I don't know that it will happen, but it would be something that would be interesting to see. What I guess more interested mind can do with that.
Joel, what was your comment?
No, I was just gonna say, like, why isn't there like an MCU? Like, I feel like there should be like an MCU version of animated films like this, or some kind of animated franchise like this. And like, why doesn't that exist? Why hasn't it already been done?
They've done a couple.
Yeah, but I mean, like in this style of animation, this style of directing type of thing. Because I don't watch animated films like that at the current time. So for me, it's like what the fuck? The fuck is Spider-Man? Let's make a whole MCU version of like this, you know, in this style. That'd be insane. Because the limitations just aren't there visually, you know. That would be interesting. The only other thing I was going to say was we have Venom and Carnage in the next one, right? Or some kind of iteration. Got you.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
That'd be confirmed. The sickest thing ever. That's confirmed?
The movie, the next Venom movie is going to have Carnage in it. Now, whether or not that's going to be a part of... Well, the thing is, when the Venom movie...
Well, I'm talking about Spider-Man.
Well, that's the
thing.
Like, the Venom movie ended with showing a clip of Spider-Verse saying, in another universe. So it alluded that this is a different universe, but it might be still connected. Which that's the gateway that the symbiote, it could be a whole different arc that they could add, like, okay, now there's an existence of symbiote and it's taking over everything. They could easily go down that road. One of the things I was going to bring up to you guys is the older Peter. The older Peter was watching Miles and Spider-Gwen interact and start flirting on the bus, right? And the second time I watched it, I was like, wait, let me think about this. He watched another version of a character just like her die that he loved. You know what I'm saying? And it's like, how much haunting was that for him? You know what I'm saying? Like, I mean, you heard him, you know, talk about the fact that he lost Aunt May. He is disconnected from Mary Jane. He, you know, didn't want kids. And now he's watching Miles, you know, interact with a character he probably loved as well. You know what I'm saying? They didn't go into it, but it was kind of just like... I was like, man, that's so deep and dark. You know what I'm saying? Like, his character has so much layers and depth that I don't think anybody talks about in these reviews. And so I was just curious y'all's perspective on just that little tidbit.
That's a good point, because in House of M, Peter's perfect world was him being married to Gwen Stacy. It wasn't Mary Jane, which is a really big thing. I don't know. That's a really good point. I didn't even think about that until you brought it up. That because it's argued that Gwen Stacy was his one true love until that just left, and then it was Mary Jane. Exactly. So I don't know. I have no opinion. I just think that's an awesome observation.
I mean, I think this again could just be Sony looking at itself in the mirror. They're looking at they're looking at what's happening in Spider-Man: Homecoming, where we're ultimately getting ready to see another adaptation of Peter and Mary Jane in the next movie. So. It could be something like that. Like, we did that, remember? And we thought we kind of started this superhero thing, and we thought you guys liked it. And now Marvel's doing it, and all you guys love it all of a sudden. Like, this is the best Spider-Man ever, and like, we're just over here like, really? You know what I mean? We done lost it all. We lost Spider-Man. And I'm just sitting over here on the back of the bus like, what's happening? Like, it don't make sense to me. I don't know. That's interesting you brought that up too, because that's one of those moments again where it's just really kind of quiet, and you're waiting for more action. You just came off a big action scene, so I overlooked that quickly. Sam, I wanted to ask you something about something you said a second ago. I have not played the Spider-Man PlayStation game. And as we've seen, I'm sure you're going to talk about at some point the end of the after credit scene, which I believe that's a version from the game. I know we saw the suit inside of the chamber, but just wondering, is there any ties between the movie and the game, or is there any possibilities? Because, like you said, this movie leaves so many possibilities as they addressed other universes because of other movies, as they obviously addressed the fact of like. Things in Venom is a possibility within this as well too. is there any possibility of anything that happened in the game that could be a tie to this?
Oh man, see now this is getting on definitely spoilatory because I don't want to overexpose anything for those people that haven't seen or played the Spider-Man PlayStation 4 game, but just even going on like Shattered Dimensions, like the old Spider-Man game that had the first appearance of Spider-Man Noir, the first appearance of Spider-Man 2099, and then original Spider-Man, and then Spider-Man also had the black suit of Spider-Man. I definitely think that, Sony is going for it, man. They're not going to hold back anything. The fact that they showed 2099 at the end with the, whatchamacallit, bracelet that he can go back and forth between dimensions, and then you saw Spider-Gwen just show up in his dimension, which means that some time has passed and she got one of those bracelets as well. So, I believe, like, they could go as far as, like, Madam Web status. They could go with, you know what I'm saying, when it comes to a Secret Wars situation. They could easily go with a symbiote-related thing with this. And so I think that it's going to be very intriguing what they're going to do moving forward. But the fact that the Spider-Man 4 costume was in the game, yeah, I think that's a tell, man. All the different costumes that you can play in the Spider-Man 4 game are in the movie. It was literally shown. So the realm of possibility is there, and it's very exciting. I'm hyped. I'm definitely hyped.
Right on.
Oh snap! Hey Sam, you about to leave, man?
Just a few. Yeah, just a few.
Okay, well Sam, if you don't mind, give your closing thoughts and closing rating, 1 out of 5 on this Spider-Man film, what it meant to you, and just kind of close it out so that way you can go ahead and head out if you need to, buddy.
Okay. If I can give, I guess I'll try to give partial points. I'll give it a 4.5. I really liked the movie. I was glad I came in without any idea of what to expect, without a trailer or anything. In this particular case, I thought it was vibrant. I thought it was kind of like the spirit of who Spider-Man is and what Spider-Man's always been about. I felt they didn't really rest on its laurels, so to speak. I felt that they really went out of their way to try to do something that was really fresh. Everything from the way that the score interacted with the color palette, to the themes, it was a beautiful story. And it felt like everyone that was part of the process at a high level, really was doing the best they could and working well together. So I loved it. I absolutely loved it. I don't even know what I would, I think to get any higher, I would have needed more villain. It's just because I love my villains. What can I say? But I think a 4.5 is probably what I would give it. I absolutely loved it.
Yeah, and Sam, I guess to add on to that, it was something I didn't get to bring up, and I was going to give you, time to think about it or talk about it if you wanted to. The fact is that we only saw the villains for the Ultimate Universe. We didn't see any of the villains for all the rest of their universes. So that means that, Spider-Gwen's version of the Goblin or Doc Ock is going to be completely different than Miles' universe. Just like, Peter Parker, 40-year-old Peter Parker, his Scorpion or Doc Ock or whatever is going to be looking completely different. So that means that each one of these films or any future incarnations of this franchise is going to have a different design for every single one of their villains, no matter what it looks like. And so one of the things about that is the film paid homage to every single one of the comic books that each one of these characters came from. So it's like they had the detail to a T, what they're supposed to look like, but their aesthetic was there as well. So, you might get whatever design of, Scorpion that you want to get later on. And even more so than that, they could end up giving us, a Spider Carnage. You know what I'm saying? There's no telling what could actually really happen. And I guess the bigger question for all of you guys, what if they do go and take all these characters, like, all right, we're going to make a movie where we're translating all these characters, same voice actors, and we're putting them in the real world. Like, you bring Nicolas Cage and put him in a noir, like, live-action setting. You put Shamar Moore as legit Miles Morales. You take, Haley Steinfeld and make her Spider-Gwen for just one film, but, like, it shows this blur in between dimensions. Do you think that Sony would ever do something so crazy as that? That's anybody's question.
I mean, in theory, we kind of already got, I can't think of his name, Childish Gambino, what's his name? You just brought
Donald Glover.
Donald Glover. So the Prowler. You already got his human form in Spider-Man: Homecoming. So, and it told the same story. It made sense. He said he had a nephew back home that was into kicks and stuff like that. That's what you got. So, is it possible of it happening? Sure. Look, Sony don't have nothing to lose here now. They're going for broke. So, if it makes sense to make dollars, why not? And again, I think Shameik Moore embraces who Miles Morales is, and I think he has a certain swagger to him that I think that a lot of teenage kids will love, and I think that he's very marketable at that as well too. So, if there's an opportunity, I think they definitely would.
All I would say is that Sony is ran by a guy that greenlit a film with giant Smurfs running in the forest, and he thought, hey, that sounds like a good idea. How much money do you need? And a director told him $275 million, and I can make a movie with giant Smurfs. And he said, great, that's a go.
What was that?
Avatar. And the guy from Sony greenlit Avatar. So anything is possible if the idea makes sense to him, I would say.
Yeah, well, first off, if there was a live action film with Nicolas Cage as fucking Spider-Man, and what was he, like in the 1930s, I think? And he's just fixing with his Rubik's Cube, and he's just fighting Nazis. Fam, give me that movie. Okay? Just give it to me. Okay?
You're right. You are right about that.
That'd be the most lit, left field movie ever. And what's hilarious is that it would probably make more money than the Spider-Man movie we just saw. This movie financially is fascinating to me. I mean, I predicted that. Well, I don't know how it'll do in the long run, but it's not. It's not. I don't know. It's fascinating that it isn't box office king. I predicted that it wouldn't be, but it's fascinating that even with all the huge word of mouth, it just completely bows to Aquaman and Bumblebee financially. Anyway,
goddamn shame.
But that makes sense for the terms of box office. It makes sense at the beginning because this is a film that, over the stretch of its run, would make its money. Now, only issue I thought Sony could possibly lose money on it is because its second week drop was a little bigger than what I thought it should be, but not by much. But it's an animated film playing through the holiday season. That means it should run until February. So as long as Sony, they're slowly releasing it worldwide, plus I believe they sold a certain 25% of it off already to overseas markets, which means that they already pulled back money from those. So I think it was never going to be huge in the box office because Mary Poppins, Bumblebee, and
Aquaman,
Fishman coming out.
Fishman.
So it was never going to be huge, but I think it could sustain to about 250 million worldwide. That's a great take.
Yeah, what it needs to do is it needs to win the award for best animated movie. Then it just needs to re-release, and they need to add something to.
If it's nominated, it gets attention.
It is not. Yeah, it's nominated, so it just needs to re-release. And I think
that's a Golden Globe though. No one cares about those.
Yeah, well. I say if we see it again in February with some added something. I mean, again, they talk. I still do feel like they rushed this movie just because of the fact that like you had the opportunity for no competition at San Diego to present something, and they weren't finished. Then that was July, and they say they were a long ways ahead of being done. We did get the finished product, and the story worked, but that just makes me feel like maybe they still just rushed to get this done. There's probably plenty of stuff they left off. Hell, add 30 more minutes of something they took out of it, re-release it in February. I think it'll make up for all the slack that's missing from the competition for the late year.
Man, if you didn't know that, would you think it was rushed? If you didn't know that they didn't say that thing, like they weren't completely done, would you think it was rushed by seeing the product?
I won't see. I initially, my psychology, I would say no, but like talking to somebody like Luke and Sam, I'll be like, well, yeah, because this feels so un-Sony-like. Like, you can tell that a lot is missing that Sony probably would have originally did. You know what I mean? So, I don't know. Again, it was just uncharted territories with this movie.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think, I mean, they could get really weird. I mean, they could, like, have, like a live-action Nick Cage and a Spider-Gwen movie and, like, have a one live-action movie that's, like, telling live-action version stories of, like, those two. Like, if they, like, both characters could be in the same film and have, like, their own narratives, like, running, you know, parallel to each other. They could do crazy shit. Not to mention, the more I think about it, like, damn, I think it's like a live-action Spider-Gwen movie could go. Starring Haley Steinfeld. Holy shit. That could actually do some numbers on some real shit. Especially with her just having been in Bumblebee, which I thought was great. Yeah.
Yeah, she's hot property right now. She's extremely hot property right now.
So they could get weird, man. You could like have a live action movie that's got Nick Cage, Haley, and someone else, and maybe the stories don't even touch. I mean, you go nuts. To be honest.
Again, it's run by a man who greenlit Giant Smurfs. Anybody who greenlit Avatar to be made, greenlit anything at this point.
They just had a hit. Let them try to do this again before they start saying, let's put Nick Cage in a live-action movie and try to do War Black and White and see if that works. Like, let's have a...
If you think about it, though, this is Sony Animation alone has had three hit films this year. And that's not, like, normal for an animation studio. They started off with Peter Rabbit, which was a huge hit for them. Then they went into Hotel Transylvania 3, which was a huge hit for them. And then they closed the year with this one. So it's like they're on a streak of doing weird, different projects. And I think if you want to go live action Nicolas Cage, you don't have to release it in theaters per se. You can literally release it to a streaming service and say, hey, we want to expand this character, but we don't want to put $100 million behind it. Let's put $30 million behind it and just have as much fun as humanly possible with the character.
Well, this is why I was saying if they did a simultaneous thing, which I've never seen before, but they did some weird shit where, like, you know, you have multiple live action Spider-Man characters in one live action film. Maybe they wouldn't have to sort of, like, you know, relegate it to like a Hulu or like a Netflix or something. You know what I mean?
They're still spending all that money on those Far From Home films. Like,
yeah.
Like, push come to shove, those are Sony films, and that's a $200 million budget. So I'm pretty sure they're not rushing to do, like, multiple Spider-Men at one time.
Well, I'd love to see it.
Oh, it'd be awesome. It'd be fucking awesome. Yeah. But they're probably like, we just recovering. Like, Sony just got out of a bad relationship. They like, look, we just met a good man again. We don't want to stick with this good man. We just met all. They like, we got to be slow with this one.
Right.
Yeah. So, I mean, right now, I looked at a report last night that it released in China on the 21st or the 22nd. But as an animated feature in China this year, this was the biggest China release they had for any animated film. Right now, it's sitting at, I think, about 120 million worldwide, which is really good. I think the budget is like 90 million. So, I mean, I think that they're going to probably close out with like maybe 200, 250 million. If they do that re-release, definitely they're going to make their money back. But for me, dude, like, if they do like something like a live action, like, why not? Like, you already hinted to it. Venom, you went whatever way you wanted to with Venom, and it still worked for you. So I'm thinking that they could easily do that. It just really depends on how it's all going to play out. But I love the film. I personally thought it was I initially gave it a 9.5 out of 10. I'm just gonna give it a 10 because the reality is this is my favorite Spider-Man film. Like I've been wrestling with it. I wanted to see it one more time. I was like, why are you wrestling with this? Like you already know how you really feel. You know what I'm saying? Like this is now my favorite Spider-Man film. Whereas like Spider-Man 2 was always my favorite. You know what I'm saying? Like Spider-Man 2, the game was one of my favorite superhero games. But it's like this movie dethroned that. Like it added weight and volume and did things that I never thought even possible. From an animation standpoint, from a story standpoint, and a cohesion standpoint. Like the cast was great. You got Mahershala Ali as the Prowler, and he was legit menacing. Had his own theme. You know what I'm saying? Like it's an amazing film. You know what I'm saying? And it's like I don't know. I'm not gonna nitpick anymore. The movie was great. Like I'm just gonna keep it at a 10. I don't have any reason to give it a detracting of like 5 points at this point. So I'll say that publicly now. I'm moving it to a 10.
Good man. But
what was you guys' closing thoughts and ratings on this film? And we'll close out.
It's the best I think it's just the best Spider-Man film ever made, like point blank. It's pretty clear cut to me. I'm amazed that people are sort of like splitting hairs about it. It's pretty simplistic. I mean, it being animated is irrelevant. I think it's just the best Spider-Man film we've just ever been given so far, which is hilarious at the 11 years. But it has everything that a Spider-Man fan should really want to be for real. I mean, there's very, very little wrong with it. It's an easy 10 out of 10 for me. I was just blown away by it, which is amazing because I had probably the lowest expectations out of this whole group. So I was kind of shell shocked by it, to be honest with you. There might be a weird thing that happens too, where like this is like the best Spider-Man film for like a long, long time as well. So I wouldn't be shocked by that either. Not to say that any sequels would be bad or anything. It's just I think it's going to be very difficult to top what happened here. I think this is almost going to be like, what Blade Runner 2049 did for fans. I think that this film is going to do a very similar thing to Spider-Man fans.
Yeah. What is your rating, bro?
It's an easy 10 out of 10. Easy 10 out of 10.
Alright, Lucas, Najir, Anthony, whatever one of you guys
want
to close out.
Can I go next? Because I have to go. Can I go next?
Sure. Go for it.
All right. So I'm going to give it a 10. It's the best Spider-Man film. To me, I liked Homecoming, but to me, Spider-Man 2 is always like, that's what I wanted to see. That's the first film I actually saw that looked like that made me feel like I was reading a comic book in some way. X-Men was like, oh, this best one get on the big screen. Let's be honest, comic books are just weird, right? You get crazy out there ideas and concepts, and they would have never made this movie live action. So to see something like this and to get a good movie, the best comic book movie in my opinion, it's nothing to say. It is a 10. Doesn't matter if it's animated, doesn't matter if it's 3D, doesn't matter if it's live action, doesn't matter if it's on a TV or streamed on a service. This movie is the best comic book movie I could think of. And I think I used to say that was Incredibles, but yeah, great movie. Oh. And thanks for having me. I gotta go, but appreciate y'all. Thanks.
Yeah, no, for sure, Anthony. But before you go, real quick, Anthony.
Mm-hmm.
Out of all the comic book movies this year, what would you rank Spider-Man? It's probably the most controversial question I'm going to ask you guys. So
yes, this was
you got Infinity War, Black Panther, Incredibles 2. Where is Spider-Man into Spider-Verse for you?
Look, in any metrics, this is better than Infinity War. In any metrics, this is better than Black Panther. It just is. And if you want to fight me for it, fight for it. Yeah. What? About what? Better emotional beats? This had better emotional beats.
No.
Better what?
This movie was good, but it wasn't a movement. Black Panther, by all metrics of a movement, is the most movable movie ever. Wakanda Forever is a line in Cardi B, the hottest rapper right now, song. People are throwing up the X's, not for Des Bryant, but for Wakanda Forever. No one is going out buying Jordan 1s from Miles Morales.
So we can talk about the movement aspect, and I might give that to you. But there's a whole other
people need to calm down. People need to calm down about that damn Black Panther. Ain't that great? Calm down.
All right. So, but gotta go. Thanks. Bye.
And Miles Morales.
See, sir.
And Miles Morales Jordans did sell out. And
Yeah.
I resold my pair for $600.
Oh yeah. I got them, but I'm saying people didn't go out their way like I need Jordan 1s because of Miles Morales. People said they're Spider-Man 1s, and I know they could be resold. You know how the shoe game is, but I'm just saying. He said any metric. I just had to call him out on that. No, it's not better on any metric.
I think he was talking about any metric pertaining to film, not like
right.
With films. With that stuff with Black Panther has nothing to do with
No. Films nowadays have a societal toll to them. That's why they try to write movies and stories that correlates to things that's happening to society. Black Panther was a movement.
If you trickly market a film, and I say trickly because Black Panther's marketing was a trick to make people care about a certain country and then use that care to translate the box office, which also they knew would perpetuate another race of people that even care even more because they never wanted to be shown like they don't care about that country. And then that made Black Panther the hit it is. But if you look at it just from a film standpoint, just as a film, it's not a good film if you look at it just as a film. You literally have to look at Black Panther as something bigger to even care about the film. Unfortunately, if we did that, then you're looking at what Titanic did, because that's the exact same format. What Avatar did, the exact same format of making you care on a greater scale than the film for everything surrounding the film. And that's what makes it such shit.
I will agree with you that, the Black Panther is nowhere near as great as people are describing it. But I will agree with you that it's definitely, the reaction to Black Panther is definitely not stemming from the quality of the story. It's more so about I think people had a visceral reaction to the importance of representation that wasn't there, before, in the cast. I think that's, and I suppose maybe the culture of Wakanda as well, but I think that came first and then the story came second, because the actual story itself, objectively, it's not bad by any metric, but it doesn't, the story is not, it ain't something that should have been, it's not deserving of an Oscar nomination. It's not deserving.
No. I'm definitely,
because that's what you want to get. When you have the most powerful black person in the world coming out and saying, this film is more important than films. This is more important than any film released. Are you fucking kidding me?
Definitely not. No.
I could make the argument that a film like The Hate U Give is 10 times more important than a film like Black Panther could ever be. Or a film like Blind Spotting is more important. Or Bill Street, if Bill Street could talk. These are more important films. But this film was marketed a certain way by a mega company that knows how to market films a certain way. And it worked. I'm not blaming them because it worked, but I'm also not blind to the fact that I've seen it work from other studios the exact same way and it catch on this exact same way.
Yeah, see,
it's so different.
I think you're thinking you're right. Both of you guys are absolutely right. Nothing against that at all. But I think the two things that you're losing emphasis on is when you say the bigger picture and when you say it worked and emphasis. And what I mean by that being a cultural movement is that because you are able to ploy the fact that it's a superhero movie, the reputations of bad stories is always there, that you were able to look beyond that to create a spectacle for everyone to like. That's my point of me saying this movie, for everyone to be a part of, or everyone to be able to pull something out of it. You know what I mean? So
I wasn't able to pull anything out of that movie.
Yeah, because you went in there with a more concise mind about how a movie should be constructed, where people went in there saying, I don't know who this character is, I damn sure know all of this cast, but I was able to take something away from it afterward. So on that note, Spider-Verse does give you that. but it's just not going to ever be as big as a movement of what Black Panther did in the beginning of this year.
No, it doesn't need to be though.
So
I don't think it needs to be a. I think Ant just when he said every metric, knowing the way he thinks, every metric he was talking about strictly on the film standpoint.
Yeah,
that's what I think too.
Outside of the film, I don't think he picked up on that at all.
And
He meant like every metric of a film, meaning if we talk about it visually, if we talk about the score,
the things you could be nominated for. Yeah, I get it.
Every one of those beats through any metric, no film, no comic book film to him has been better this year than this movie.
And that's the thing that I think which makes a movie as good is that when a director, writer, producer are able to, they're educated in that field, they're able to knock down each of those lists and do their best. But the one thing you have to remember is the consumer, for the people who don't understand that skill, well, how do you translate things to people for them to relate to like? And that comes down to marketing, creativity, and the social grab that it may deploy for people. So like when you look at it from that scope, you do have that one side that damn sure matters, but then you do have that other side that I also think makes a movie good too. So like to me, no movie is ever going to be a better marketable movie than what Deadpool did, because like, think about it. It was a rated R movie, Valentine's Day weekend. I mean, it has no recipe to win considering everything it was against. Yet it adapted to the fact of saying, if we're going to make people watch this movie, a rated R movie on Valentine's Day weekend against 50 Shades of Grey, what are we going to do? And that's how you get people in there. That's how you build success. Outside of the story and all that other stuff, how does this work for right now? What is it going to do? So like, to Jarrell's point in the very, very beginning of the show today, Into the Spider-Verse did not market good at all. So it's not going to have an impact at the end because it didn't bring people in for that reason. It brought the fact of kids say, colors, animation, cool. Or comic book fans saying, Miles Morales story, cool. But at the end of the day, it's just going to be that. It's not going to change things afterwards. The animation should, but it's not. Whereas Black Panther, I feel, just changed a lot of people's perspectives for superhero movies and cultural factors as well.
I suppose it did.
I would just say, you're just factoring in two different things. With Spider-Verse, it's always considered a mid-range film from Sony. It did not have to make money. It did not have to be big. So its marketing budget was probably around 10 to 15 million. There's no need to go higher than that. Black Panther's marketing budget is projected to be over $250 million. It's a way. If I put it in your face constantly, you'll go see it.
Yeah.
And Spider-Verse, it's more of, because of the holiday season, you don't spend massive amounts, besides Warner Brothers, you don't spend massive amounts of money on marketing a film. You just let it play out and see what happens. So it'll never have the impact of a Black Panther, nor did it ever have to, nor was that ever Sony's goal. If they ever did a live action version of Miles, then yes, you would see a $200 million budget. You would see a $200 to $250 million marketing budget, because they're going to duplicate what Disney's did with Black Panther and what Disney's doing with The Lion King. Like, it's a way you market things to black people. And it's normally showing them, constantly putting it in their faces for them to see. This just wasn't that film for them.
Yep.
So,
yeah,
going back to what I was initially asking, though, because y'all are talking around a lot of subjective and really interesting points. I didn't think we were going to go there with this one. But the reality is, as a bar none comic book film, what do you rank this at? Out of all the superhero films that come out this year, Incredibles can be in the mix of it. Other things can be in the mix of it. Where does this rank for you guys?
Yeah.
Because the reality is, for me, I loved Infinity War. I enjoyed Black Panther. I enjoyed Aquaman. But it was like something about this film that kind of was like, man, this is changing my whole perspective about what a superhero film can actually be. And I didn't expect that of this at all. And I don't think anybody did. When you sit there and you look on Twitter and you got Barry Jenkins that made Bell Street saying, certified hype, Spider-Man Into the Spider-Verse is magnificent. Being one of the best Spider-Man films ever, one of the best films of this year, period. A best 10-pole since Edge of Tomorrow. things I felt watching this, hats off to, Phil Lord and Chris Miller. When you have like somebody like that saying a statement like that, he's not just saying that because Sony's backing them for money, I don't think. But I'm just saying that this movie did something totally that nobody would have ever expected. So my whole perspective was, for me, is like asking you guys, as much as this is a controversial question, yeah, buddy, what do you guys see this movie as ranking this year out of the superhero films? Because that's a real question now.
I'll simply answer that this is, it's really hard to let this dethrone Spider-Man 2. So it is the second best Spider-Man movie to me.
Oh, no,
for this year.
Superhero films.
I know. Yeah, I'm just saying, you said for Spider-Man, so second best Spider-Man film for me, out of 1 out of 10, I think, or we're doing out of 5, whatever. Well, 1 out of 10, I would definitely give it a 10. I'll say 9.5 because I really want to see it on the small screen. I feel like I was gypped of some of the animation because of the theater I went to. So 9.5 out of 10-ish because, of that. Of this year, I mean, look, Infinity War is a 2-part movie. The whole movie together is going to be a conversation to have. So we only got half of a plot. So that's just it discredits that movie. But it was damn amazing. I've seen it like 4 times in the theater, so it's still one of my favorite. But like you said, Sam, this movie you would have never thought because you would have won Sony, and just because it was a risk and just different, it's just, I don't know, it's in the league of its own now. This is going to be the start of a lot of good things in the future, hopefully, for it. But for superhero movies of the year, it's easily the favorite, without flaws, without problems. It just straight down the book. It was a good ass movie, and yeah, that's it.
And just to make sure I understood, so you're asking like ranking what's the best like comic book movies or superhero films, like where's this rank? That's what you're asking, right?
Yeah, where does this rank? And you can expound on why you think that. And I mean, if you want to say this is just your favorite versus rank, I mean, you can do that. But yeah, let's break it down. Let's be real.
Okay. So, well, first off, Infinity War is its own movie. But that might be a conversation for another day. Anyway, I think, in my personal opinion, Spider-Man is probably, shit. I really loved Aquaman though. Damn. I think I would say Spider-Man is probably, I think Infinity War is my favorite comic book movie, superhero film of the year, period. There's nothing touching it, in my personal opinion. I've never seen anything like Infinity War before. Not in a live action sense, never. And then it would be Spider-Man, and then I'm not sure how it would trickle down from there, but yeah, it's definitely like the second best of the year, easy for me. But Infinity War, no. Infinity War's better for me.
Quick question. 2 things I just thought about. I have to renege real quick. Spider-Verse 2 because I really, really love Bumblebee. But Sam, let's not forget your favorite movie came out again this year with a special edition in Deadpool 2. So, do you think that Spider-Verse was better than Deadpool 2 with the added stuff that they did for it, considering how much you love Deadpool 2?
Yes.
You thought about that.
Just so everybody can see me, unequivocally. Yes! this is my rationale behind that. I love Deadpool 2. I did. I had a kick out of that freaking movie. I loved it. I don't know why the heck they re-released it once upon a Deadpool for a marketing standpoint, but nonetheless,
it was good.
The movie was great. I love the movie. But this movie, man, like, I'm sorry, bro. This is literal comic book in translation to real life. Like, even though this isn't even real. Like, it's still an animated film, but it's photorealistic. Like, it's the perfect translation. It gets every single one of the characters from these comic books that I know and love perfect. They don't detract from them, and they make you want to look at every single one of these characters in their own films. I don't know any other film this year has done that. Like, even with Deadpool, I don't want to necessarily see a Domino film. You know what I'm saying? Like, I want to see a Cable.
You got it. You want to see a Domino
film? I would love to see an X-Force film. But I'm saying that this movie had me like, yo, I want to see a Spider-Man noir movie. That's not, I didn't have that in my heart, bro. Like, Spider-Man is my second favorite, like, superhero ever. but I never was like, I want to see a Spider-Man noir movie. Now I do.
Okay.
You know what I'm saying? So, I mean, the reality is, for me, and it took time. Like, I was fighting it, bro. I was only seen the movie twice. Jarrell has seen the movie more than I have, which I feel bad about. I would love to go see the movie again. I would love to see it again with guys looking at Bumblebee. But that's just how I feel. Real talk. But
Jarrell,
Lucas,
one more question towards Jarrell real quick. Now,
Yeah.
Jarrell.
Yeah.
We're talking about comic book superhero movies now.
Correct.
Will this movie be better than Glass?
What? Spider-Verse?
Stuff like that.
Spider-Verse.
Wait. Pause. You're asking will Spider-Verse... No, it's actually a great question, but you're asking, is there a potential for Spider-Verse to be better than Glass? Is that the question?
Or Glass be better than Spider-Verse, yes. Or ultimately, once you see both movies, what would have been the better product?
Holy shit.
And just a disclaimer, everybody. That's M. Night is his guy. That's his guy. He freaked out when he met him, so that's his guy. So this is a high profile question here.
And that's, well, the biggest thing is that, like, Unbreakable, I'm just so passionate about. I think Unbreakable is one of the greatest. I think Unbreakable is the greatest superhero origin film ever made. Boom. But, I think, shit. Is there potential for Glass to be better? Is the question?
Yeah.
I would say yes, actually. I would say yes, just because Split and Unbreakable are so unusually, like, constructed. Particularly with Unbreakable. I mean, the fact that, like, Unbreakable was made, like, 18 years ago is, like, stupefying. But I would say yes, there's definitely a chance, for sure. Just because Glass could be much more emotionally resonating, in my opinion. From a narrative standpoint, it could possibly be more complex. So yeah, I think it's possible for sure. I think Glass is gonna fuck people up. I'm serious. Like I think M. Night is about to come through with a home run. I would say yeah.
I might have to catch a flight to come see it with you, man. I know how much you want to see that movie, man.
Hey, if y'all trying to go to the premiere in New York, let me know. Shoot, make it happen.
Oh,
I'm so ready. Oh, that movie's gonna crush. It's gonna crush.
I'm with that. All right, Lucas. I'm sorry, man. Go ahead.
All right, what's your ranking, Lucas? Comic book movies this year.
With majority of them being bad to me, outside of Deadpool 2 and maybe Teen Titans Go, the movie.
Got that came out this year.
Spider-Verse is easily the best one. I mean, to me, that's not even a high enough bar for this film for me. I say films based off of comics, this is the best one I've seen since The Dark Knight. I don't think anything comes close to Spider-Verse since I've seen The Dark Knight in this genre of film. It's kind of close to cracking my top 10 films of the year, but that list is forever moving, so I gotta figure it out, but I think it is really close to it, so that's why it's so high to me. I want to say something about Glass, but I don't want to, because I'm just gonna leave that alone. I'm just gonna point.
We are having
no. I'm just going to point out two really quick things about Glass. M. Night has said how long it took for him to develop Unbreakable. He talks about the stretch of time it took for him to perfect Split, and then he rushed to do Glass. All I'm saying is, if it ends up where I don't believe he took the time necessary. I think he had a studio who told him, hey, Split is huge. We'll give you X amount of dollars.
Sir.
And he said, great, that's perfect.
Bless you.
And
Lucas.
I think the product will show you when it's done.
See,
that, hey,
I gotta. We got strongly disagree on that one. We got strongly disagree.
Y'all got me distracted with my kid now. Look, we're gonna close this out.
That's what I said. All I'm saying is just wait till that film comes out.
No,
I see it some way. You're going to see it. You may see it differently than I see it. But as far as Spider-Verse, I don't think for this genre of film that I'll see a film this good until, damn, maybe someone else's origin story. Not Captain Marvel. I can skip that altogether. But I'm like somewhere down the line, someone else's origin story that could just be like, just encompass everything necessary to make these movies great.
Hey, can I trigger Lucas real quick?
Oh,
first of all, honorable mention for Ant-Man, not mentioned once today, as if it never came out. So honorable mention there.
I only mention Ant-Man when we talk about Aquaman. If we talk about Aquaman, I will mention Ant-Man from Aquaman having an Ant-Man moment.
Trigger moment. Out of all the movies you've seen this year, obviously a whole plethora of them, Nicolas Cage, where we talked about Spider Noir a lot today. Do you think that he had a better acting role as Spider Noir or Nicolas Cage in Widows?
I was about to say, wait, what?
Nicolas Cage in Widows.
You mean Mandy?
Yeah. And Mandy, sorry, yes.
I'm about to say, what did I miss in Widows? Sorry,
I was like, wait.
I keep looking at Jarrell because I'm like, I know he loved Mandy, and I kept thinking of Widows the entire time.
Why are you trying to put these men against each other?
The fun I can't put his performance in this over Mandy. That movie is another level sick.
Okay.
He has so much fun with that movie.
Yeah.
So much fun with that performance. Like that's on another level. That's one of the performances that should be nominated for something. Yeah. I just don't know what it should be nominated for. Yeah, I haven't figured out what it should be. Maybe a Sadden Award, definitely, because it does fall in that sci-fi category. Sure. Man, I would almost give him an Oscar nomination for his performance. He is sick in that movie.
Yeah, agreed.
Andy, I fell in love with that movie so much.
Yeah, you did.
No spoilers. I still hadn't seen it, even though I own it.
Yeah, no spoilers.
Yeah, it's nuts, dude.
You still haven't seen it.
I own it. I still ain't seen it.
I saw it right before you bought it too, which was funny. So.
Yeah, but hey, Lucas, I'm gonna look at Witch this afternoon.
You've been saying that for 3 years now.
Man, life changes, bro. Life changes.
You made me sit through that Martin Scorsese film that I did not want to see with Andrew Garfield. You made me sit through and say, you watch this, I'll watch Witch. And you still haven't watched Witch.
Yeah. Look, I saw it was on Amazon, so now I'll be able to look at it finally.
Yep.
Anyway, that concludes our part 2. We are not having any more of these discussions. I don't care who wants to be up here the next time. We are done. If anybody else wants to have a conversation about this movie with me, we'll have it offline. We'll have like a, add on something later on. The next movie we're going to be talking about is either going to be Bumblebee or Aquaman. I'll let you guys decide. Make sure you go into the chat and let us know which one you want us to all to discuss.
Wait. What did you say?
Aquaman would be dope.
My nigga,
everyone's going to hate Aquaman.
I don't know which one we're going to discuss, whether it's going to be
what you mean?
Or Bumblebee.
Aquaman. What you talking about? Aquaman. What you talking about? We have to discuss Aquaman.
It's definitely Aquaman.
Wait.
We have to.
So many things I could...
I thought y'all said that Bumblebee was better than Aquaman.
It is. It just makes less to talk about.
That's facts, okay? Bruh, Aquaman, I loved Aquaman. I don't care what anyone says. Everybody's a psychopath. Aquaman was amazing, okay? William Dafoe rides a shark, okay? Okay. Like,
also, it's a good movie up until a certain black man does certain things with armor and technology he should know absolutely nothing about in a desert, and he did it in 2 hours.
Also, we got the Pacific Rim origin story when the first Kaiju was summoned at the end of this movie, and boom, make it happen. and also too, like I've been telling people, look, this was easily a move for Paramount, not Paramount. Who the hell was the company for? Warner Brothers. This was easily a moment where he could have just summoned Godzilla right there and just destroyed everything. Like that could have just happened. No one would have been mad if he would have rolled Godzilla out.
Bruh, if man, if there is a God, please let James Wan direct either Dragon Ball Z or Gundam Wing.
Yeah.
Either way, but please,
Gundam Wing, please. That's my
Yes.
vote. So, okay, you guys want to talk about Aquaman. Alright, fine. The next discussion is going to be about Aquaman sometime after Christmas, maybe after New Year's or before it. So, hopefully you guys enjoy this discussion. We are legit at 2 hours completely. So, we're ending this. Yeah, make comments. Definitely leave in the comment section below. Make sure you leave a like. Oh, man, I almost forgot everybody's plugs. I'm just trying to get out of here. I got my kid in my hand.
In the description. In the description.
right?
Yeah.
Description.
So, yeah. You know what? I'm cutting it. Alright, you guys. Keep it locked. Yeah, we ain't gonna stop. I was gonna give everybody a moment to kind of shine, but you know what? In the description. Alright. Later, everybody.